Hi, this is day 26 Daily Spark question, and it says, how does my body respond differently to the same situation depending on who is present? How does my body respond differently to the same situation depending on who is present? Okay. I don't know how my body responds differently, but I know my mind responds differently. And I think like it would have to do on with my history with that person and who I perceive that they perceive me to be. It's and God, this is such a these questions, it's like one big confessional, into like the dysfunctions of my mind and personality. And I can tell like um I'm thinking of so many things right now. Well, what's the question? I don't have my little booklet, so I'm looking in my on my computer. Okay. How does my body respond differently to the same situation? Well, first of all, depending on who's present. First of all, I don't even know if you can have the same situation depending, like, because if you're with a different person, you're in a different situation. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. But okay, I get it. That's a little nuance that we can leave aside. So I'm thinking of how um, the mind, like my mind might be doing different things, like different storytelling, different affect, depending on who's present, and that might affect how my body feels. So I'm thinking of like I'm more maybe vulnerable around certain people and allowing myself to feel, and maybe then therefore more attuned to how I feel in my body depending on who's present, because there's certain people I just naturally am okay displaying that vulnerability, letting it out, you know. And of course, my husband being the person who's I'm going to be okay with everything, you know. Like I definitely would feel different with him than being with a stranger. And I think the way that would show up in my body is like it's almost like I can turn my body off, I bet. I've never thought of that, but it's like suppression, like if you're like, now's not the time to deal with this, not in front of these people I don't know, like that can happen. And then it's like, shut it down, push through. There's stuff going on next door. I don't even know what, but like all day yesterday during my treatments, I hear doors slamming. I'm like, what's going on? And now like people are, anyway, it's distracting. So yeah, I definitely feel like I can attune to or suppress those sensations, um, depending on who I'm with, because sometimes it's just not a place I want to go dive into in the front of people I don't know, or maybe I'm not comfortable with. But then sometimes that's not true with my husband either. Like if it's not, like, depending on what we're going through or what we're talking about, I may it may not be time for me to do my exploration and being attuned to not attuned, because I feel like attunement, like I can be attuned, like co-regulate with people and still like give them all the attention, right? Like, this is about you. And sometimes I will, if it's about me and what I'm going through and he's all there for me, then I can drop in and just like let that fully express. So maybe that's one way to look at it, is like, uh, who's holding the space for whom, you know? And if we're both holding the space for each other and we can go there together and feel into those body sensations, I think that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Like to have a co created container with people where you're all allowed to just whatever happens, happens. I don't even know that's what this question is about, but it does. I think it's highlighting how like we can be different, feel differently with different people, And what does that mean? Like, doesn't matter, nothing means anything, but like what's its usefulness? And I think that that idea, I think the most useful idea that I've tapped into, at least, is that idea of suppression. And when that happens, it might be a short-term, temporary, useful tool, but we've got to get back to a space, with or without other people, where we can then say, okay, let's be with that, because otherwise what you suppress is going to fester and pop out in like dysfunctional ways, right? If it's something we need to be looking at for our own health. So that their emotional health, so that's one thing that I think it's like, this is like a useful tool to know that happens, and why it happens, and when it happens, and how to work with it so it doesn't fester. Yeah, that's it. Bye.